Natasha should be.
Natasha, are you there?
Where's Natasha?
I don't know.
I think Drew's emailing right now to find out where the heck she is.
You know what? I can wing it in the beginning, and I'll hand it off to Natasha, okay?
Well,
I wouldn't worry about it.
Yeah, let's see if she's there, though, first.
Well, we started
Hi there.
the call. Hi, Natasha.
How are
Hi,
you?
Natasha.
Good. We're
Hi.
launching the call right now. Get ready. Go ahead, Natasha.
Perfect.
Go ahead, Natasha.
Good evening and welcome to tonight's telephone town hall with Congressman Tierney. I'm Natasha with Congressman Tierney's office, and I'll be moderating the call. This evening, we'll be talking about jobs in the economy, education, and the Congressman's efforts to protect the area's seniors, families, and small businesses. To ask Congressman Tierney a question about any of these issues, press 0 now. We're happy you could join us this evening, and we'll begin the event in just a moment. We look forward to hearing from you today. If you have a question for Congressman Tierney about jobs, the economy, college affordability, or any other issue of importance to you, please press 0 now. If you'd like to receive email updates from Congressman Tierney, please press 7 to leave your email address. Again, this is Natasha from Congressman Tierney's office. Thanks so much for joining today's telephone town hall with Congressman Tierney. If you have a question, please press 0 now. Also, if you'd like to receive email updates from the Congressman, please press 7 to be connected to a member of our team. Welcome to today's telephone town hall with Congressman Tierney, where we'll be talking about jobs in the economy, education, and the Congressman's efforts to protect the area's seniors, families, and small businesses. At any point, if you have a question for Congressman Tierney, please press 0 and you'll be connected to a member of our team who will take your name and questions. If you'd like to share your email address with us in order to receive updates, please press 7. I'll now turn things over to Congressman Tierney.
Well, thank you, Natasha, and it's always great to have your help. I think folks by now know that you're from Gloucester originally, helping out with this, and these calls are hopefully getting to be a little bit of a routine for folks as we try and stay in touch. I want to thank everybody for joining tonight's telephone town hall. I think you know, as your congressman, I think it's critical to stay in touch. So the more I know about issues that we face in our everyday lives, the more I have an opportunity to hear what your thoughts and opinions are, the better it is for us to help keep our work in Washington informed by what's going on in people's lives here. So to that end, in addition to tonight's call, I hope you'll sign up for our e-newsletter, like my page on Facebook, or follow me on Twitter. We can also ask that you visit my website at tierney.house.gov. We try to keep the latest news on there. Let you sign up through an e-newsletter on that, and there are other ways that you can stay connected as well through that page. As I go around talking to families and seniors and veterans, small business owners right around the district here, I hear questions about all sorts of issues, obviously. What about jobs? What about strengthening our economy? How do we make sure our kids have the opportunity to receive a world-class education? So tonight I'm happy to answer any of the questions, or better, to hear what you have to think about those topics, and what are the areas you think are important to you and your family, how we're going to strengthen our education system, how we're going to create those jobs, and what we're going to do to continue the economic recovery that's underway. So if you have a question or want to make a comment, I hope you'll press 0 to share that with us. Just press 0 if you have a question or you want to make a comment on that, and then we'll be able to get the call started and be able to share some ideas back and forth on that. We've been supporting local business here as much as we possibly can. We've been trying to work so that the jobs can be created. We've been working to make college more affordable. I just filed a bill last several weeks to try and cut the interest rates on student loans for people that are already out of college, people that are lugging around a high interest rate after they graduate. We need to provide them an opportunity to refinance at a lower interest rate. Elizabeth Warren, fortunately, filed that same bill in the Senate for the same purpose on that. We have a situation where banks can go to the Federal Reserve and get a really low interest loan, but we have students carrying around an interest rate that is just makes it almost unbearable for them to get their life started and moving forward on that. Once again, if you are here, and we want to thank you for joining tonight's call, don't hesitate to press 0 if you'd like to make a comment or ask a question, either at this point in the call or later in the call. We'll put you in the queue and get to as many calls as we can. We hope to get to near everybody, but for people that we may not get to, there'll be other opportunities to make sure that your comment or question is shared, whether that's on the website at tierney.house.gov, whether you want to go on our Facebook page and like us there, follow me on Twitter, or get copies of the e-newsletter, or just call the office at some point in time or write in. We're always happy to have that conversation and share ideas in that respect. So again, this is your Congressman John Tierney. I hope you'll find tonight's town hall informative and helpful. And now I'm going to turn things back over to Natasha, and she'll be moderating tonight's call. Thank you, Natasha.
Thanks, Congressman. Again, if you have a question you'd like to ask Congressman Tierney, please press 0. And if you'd like to stay in touch after the call, please press 7. Congressman, we've got Marianne from Gloucester on the line who has a question about unemployment.
Great. Hello, Marianne. Hello, Marianne. Hello?
Looks like Marianne's not there, Congressman. I think we're going to go to Debbie from Lynn.
Okay. Hello, Debbie.
Hi. How are you?
Hi. I'm great. How are you?
My question is, could you please tell me why the elderly are getting hit so hard by all the cuts with Social Security and food stamps? I know people who were getting $840 a month, cut down to $600, and was getting $139 in food stamps, and was cut down to $15 in food stamps. It's an 80-year-old lady who has dementia and only has $40 a month to live on, and that includes food. And this is just one case that I'm aware of, but there are hundreds of people out there. The elderly are getting hit very hard, and they cannot live, and that means they're going without their medications, and I have to help pay for some of their medications.
Well, Debbie, first, on the Social Security, your friend should not be losing her Social Security or any portion of it unless she had an event in her life that you didn't share with me on that. But if she has some issue with her check and it's been adjusted for some reason, I would offer that you should call the office here at 978-531-1669, 978-531-1669, and somebody can work through her particular issue on that, because, as I say, without some altering situation in her life, then her payment should be consistent on that, with the exception of any Medicare payment with adjustments, which would not be anywhere near the numbers that you're talking about on that. Food stamps, however, the sad tale on that is that in the last budget, the Republicans put forth a sizable decrease in the food stamp budget on that, which did impact states and then in turn people that were recipients of that. I did not agree with it. A number of people didn't, but I do have to say that it was part of the budget that was put forward by the Republicans and part of the effort they made in that farm bill that came out, and they drive a hard situation. On the proposed budget going forward, they would cut the food stamps even more severely. So it's all the more reason we have to fight to try and make sure that other members of Congress understand the impact that it has on individuals' lives, the elderly certainly, but other age categories all, and children as well. When we had that situation where sequestration went in, you remember that Republicans couldn't agree to a budget to keep us going, so they cut off the same amount all the way across, and that really created a situation where items like food stamps went down. They also, shut down the government for 16 days. These things all adversely impact people's living situation, and we have to, make sure that they understand the serious situation it places in people like your friend, particularly if they're elderly and children as well. So I hope you share with your individual. Call the office 978-531-1669. And we'll try to help out with her Social Security situation if it's made some adjustment on that. And the food stamps, just know that we keep fighting to make sure that people have that assistance. So we've got an uphill fight with the current majority, but that doesn't have to remain the same, and we're hoping that'll change.
Thanks, Congressman. Again, if you've got a question you'd like to ask Congressman Tierney, please press 0. And to stay in touch after the call and to leave your email address, please press 7. Congressman, we've got Antoinette from Amesbury on the line who has a question about the minimum wage.
Great. Hello, Antoinette.
I mean, my daughter, she's got a daughter in college. Right. I'm a retired person, and I worked all of those years, and I don't get what I deserve. But that's okay. I'm older, and I can handle. But my daughter, she's single. And she have a daughter in college, and she pays so much money. But she worked 2 jobs, and she struggled to pay for the college. So other people, they have a food stamp, they have this and they have that. But my daughter, nobody give us anything. No the state, no the government, nobody. So we handle. But I don't think some people get, I'm a crazy, and you send me $2,000, $3,000 a month because I'm crazy. I don't think that's right. And they have a more little strict. Watch those people. We won't be in such mess.
Okay. Well, Antoinette, thank you for your call on that. I don't know what your financial situation is. Sounds to me, if unless your daughter's working and making a sizable amount of money on that she may be eligible for some assistance on her college, and she ought to go to the admissions office, and I think they'll walk her through that, or go to our website and go onto the education page. They'll tell her some of the ways that she can have help, hopefully getting her through college. As for whether or not she's got enough income or not, the minimum wage, which was, I think, what you might have told Natasha you wanted to talk about as well, we need to increase the minimum wage, and that's certainly, we're in the middle of that battle right now. It makes sense that people should not be working for a minimum wage that keeps them in poverty, and that's a fight that we have to keep by, and it works not just for the individual, but for their children, but also works for the community and the small businesses in the community, because when people earn a living wage, they're able to support their small businesses, and the economy in the entire area improves on that basis. So thank you, Antoinette. And if anybody else has a question that they'd like to ask, I certainly hope they'll just press 0 to make a question or a comment, and then, Natasha, I'll pass it back to you.
Thanks, Congressman. As the Congressman said, if you have a question you'd like to ask, please press 0. And if you'd like to stay in touch after the call, please press 7. Congressman, we've got Mary from Newbury who has a question about bipartisanship.
Okay. Hello, Mary.
Hello, Congressman. It's so nice to speak with you, and I was very pleased to be selected from this. I spent a lot of time on conference calls, and I love this type of communication. So for me, this is right up my alley, if that makes sense. Congressman,
well, it does. We get a lot of people that like this format, so thanks for weighing in on that.
Yeah, I was listening to Deb and Lynn, and she was talking about the elderly and all the other great questions that came in. And something that you said, Congressman, really struck me, that sometimes it is an us versus them, a Democratic versus the Republican. Can you tell me what steps, sir, you're taking to bridge that gap so that we as a country are rolling and rowing in the right direction to get our folks back to work, to get our seniors some relief, and to get our young people that are coming out of college unburdened with debt?
Absolutely. So we obviously have an issue going on about whether we can move forward together, and what it takes is people that are willing to work with people who don't agree with them toward a solution that moves the ball forward on that. You'll know that 2007 to 2010, when Democrats had the majority, I'm really proud to say we passed a lot of bills. It was the most productive Congress since 1965. About 80% or so of those bills were bipartisan on that nature. We had a Republican president for 2 years and a Democratic president for 2 years. And I think the key there was when we were in the majority, we were willing to reach across and try to find some way to work with people with whom we disagreed. There's less of that going on now, and it's not because there aren't any Republicans in the Republican majority that would do that. It's that there's a number, or a core number of people who came into Congress around 2009 or so who really don't believe in compromise. And if you read their book, Young Guns, and there's a group of people there call themselves Young Guns. They wrote a book about that. They say as much, that they don't intend to compromise. Some people come in and they don't really like government. They don't want government to be involved in any sort. So we have to try to find a way to work with those people who don't fall into that category, and then get the speaker, John Boehner, because he sets the agenda to do what was done from 2007 to 2010, reach across and forge some path forward with those that agree, not worry about getting only one party to pass a bill, but get the two parties to work together. We did that on the Violence Against the Violence Against Women Act, but it took a year to put that together, and finally the speaker decided to go with a few people on his side that wanted to do it and a lot on the other side. We did it when we got Sandy relief. He was willing to work with both sides, and we did it. So the notion is that we try to keep ourselves open to the notion of of working with people whom we disagree, and invite them to do the same, and then be ready to agree with them when they do that, when it makes sense to go forward. Sometimes it's just a disagreement totally, and we can't reach some accord. But if there was a better effort to do that, and I think that 2007 to 2010 model was a good example of it, then I think we can do it. And so I work with people all the time. I work on my committees with my chairs now, my ranking members when I was the chairman, to do investigations. We do it in a bipartisan manner. We're trying now to solve the pension plan for the multi-employer pension plans, and both my colleague from Tennessee, Mr. Rowe, and I, we're opposite parties, but we're working on this toward a common solution. So there are lots of times when I've had the opportunity to do that, and we've taken advantage of it. And I think if we continue to do it, and more members continue to be open for that, we can move forward. But I think the current speaker has a real difficult time in his conference getting some people to want to have government work at all, and other people who want to work together. So, Natasha, I think this is where we're supposed to put in our first question for folks, and we wanted to run a little survey and get people's opinion. We know that student loan is really causing a problem for millions of students and their parents, obviously, all across the country. I have a plan. I mentioned it in my opening remarks. The plan would allow that those who have unmanageable student loans with high interest rates right now, they give them the ability to refinance their loan at a lower rate. I want to know whether or not you think student loan borrowers should be allowed to refinance their federal student loans at a lower rate, just like people that are carrying a high-interest car loan or a high-interest housing loan might be allowed to refinance at a lower rate that's available. Should students be able to do that as well? Press 1 if you agree, yes, and press 2 if you don't agree. That would be no. So thank you, Natasha.
Thanks, Congressman. Just a reminder, if you have a question you'd like to ask Congressman Tierney, please press 0. And if you'd like to stay in touch after the call, please press 7 to leave your email address. Congressman, we're going to take a question from Howie in Peabody about unemployment insurance.
Great. Hello, Howie.
How are you?
Good. How you doing?
Nice to live, sort of. Just wanted to check with you. I don't hear anything. We were hearing it periodically around the first of the year and then through January and into February about the extended benefits for long-term unemployed.
Right.
About it any longer? Is there ever even a whisper of the possibility of going back to that issue, or is it totally dead till after the elections?
Well, we're hoping, Howie, that it's not totally dead. Certainly, this is one of the areas where Mary would be interested to know. I mean, we are looking for every way we can to find some agreement with our Republican colleagues about how to go forward on unemployment insurance, and we're being a little bit stiff-armed here. The Senate passed a bill, and they would have extended the unemployment. They would have gone retroactively back to when people lost it at the end of last year and moved it forward, but it would have expired at the end of May. And we couldn't get the House to take it up. It's a situation where we really believe we had the votes for it. If the Speaker would have disregarded some of the, I think, a minority of his party who just didn't want to do anything and brought it to the floor, but he didn't. So we never got the opportunity to put that coalition of Republicans and Democrats together. But we haven't forgotten the issue. We're now trying to, I've got a bill that I spoke to the leader about filing the other day that would bring us through the end of September, go retroactive back to December, and bring us forward to December. September, or the end of September rather, and try to give people an opportunity to stay solvent here and to keep their families and sustain them. Other members, we have the head of the Ways and Means Committee, Mr. Levin. You know, he's got a bill that he's thinking about. He's being told by Republicans that now they think that money's a problem. They think going retroactively would be just way too much money, and they could never agree to that. Other people tell me it's too complicated. So we are looking for them to bring one of our bills forward. We're going to file a bill because the Senate bill expired, try to get the Senate to bring it up again because they were able to pass one in a little bit, and just keep pressing on this. We've just passed a little while ago a tax credit for businesses that wasn't paid for. Yet when we talk about extending unemployment insurance, some of our colleagues on the side say, well, it isn't paid for yet. There's plenty of ways that we can pay for it, and we've made those suggestions, or we could do it without paying for it right now and do that later. But one way or the other, I'm hearing from lots of people, Howie, that are just at the end of their rope. I mean, they've had it. They're strung out. Their savings are depleted. They're just desperate on that. And those are the people that we're trying to make sure have a way forward here and a way to sustain their families. So we haven't forgotten it, and we're pressing on. We've just got to find, as Mary says, folks on the other side that that want to work with us here, that want to actually get something done and govern.
Thanks, Congressman. Again, if you have a question you'd like to ask Congressman Tierney, please press 0. And if you'd like to leave your email address, please press 7. Congressman, we've got Jim from Amesbury on the line for you.
Thank you. Hi, Jim.
Hello. Hey, Congressman Tierney, thanks for your service. Tell the leader that she's doing a great job. I got a problem. You got my support, you got my vote, but I got something on the stove here that I'm about 15 feet away, and I got to watch it. So I thank you very much. As long as you keep in mind the cities and towns and the tax rate equation, that expense minus revenue over the tax base is important, and you know it. That's what I care about, that you're looking after the cities and towns of your district. So thank you very much. I've enjoyed
Thank you, Jim.
Listening to you. But I got to get to the stove here. Otherwise, I might have the alarm getting on. Thank you very much.
Okay. Go for it. Have a great dinner on that. And that's one of the reasons why people think they like this format, is it lets them ask a quick question, put it on speaker, and run to the stove. So we hear that quite a bit, and I appreciate it. We're always trying to be mindful of people's tax situation. I was particularly pleased that when the recession got really tough and it was going down there, we were able to reduce taxes for 95% of the population on that, and I think that was important, particularly when things got tough. I think we took 22 votes to cut taxes on that, and we need to make sure that, particularly middle-class families, people struggling in middle class, they're paying their fair share. And they're doing that, and we've got to make sure that we find ways to keep our cities and towns doing it. We've brought a lot of additional resources to towns to hire on the number of firefighters and police officers that they need to keep a full quotient so that their communities are safe. That's one way to do it. We try to make sure that we have the education money going out, even though it's only 10 to 12% of all the cost of education. We try to make sure that we continue to have some assistance there for communities so that they have the number of teachers and teachers' aides that they need to really deliver a good product on that. And we just, try to find ways to work in this together. If we could pass a highway bill now, Jim, if we could go out there and do that, a lot of cities and towns in the state are waiting because federal highway funds are generally almost half of the money for that, and if we don't do that by the end of the summer, we're going to be in difficulty. So we need to do that so the money can go out. It's a great time to put people to work, and lots of people would be put to work if we have a really strong and robust highway program, and we all know we need to get it done. The condition of the roads, the situation that's in is costing businesses a fortune, and repairs on their vehicles, and slow down and getting the product and people from one point to another, and a lot of commuters are just sitting there. It's just too long a wait to get in and out of work on that. So we've got lots that we can do, and we're going to make sure that we do that.
Thanks, Congressman. Again, if you've got a question you'd like to ask Congressman Tierney, please press 0. And if you'd like to stay in touch after the call, please press 7. Congressman, we've got Rich from Danvers on the line who has a question about small business.
Thank you. Hello, Rich.
Hi, Congressman. I'm a small business owner, lifelong Republican, and I appreciate having this forum. I would like to know what you can do about making more cash available for companies to hire more people. We do pay full health and always have, and we have great benefits, and we've never paid minimum wage to anybody. We're always paying, at least 50% higher than minimum wage. So there's a lot of companies out there that are supporting the economy already, but we need to know how we can get more cash available through the banking system so that they don't shut down small businesses. I'd like your opinion on that, please.
Great. Well, thanks, Rich, and thanks for being a business that's responsible enough to pay people more than a minimum wage, particularly the low minimum wage that we have right now, and to treat your people well on benefits. I was in small business myself for more than 20 years, so I know that when you take an obligation on like that, the bills don't keep coming down. So the principal, of the owner, or the partners a lot of times end up getting their share shaved because they're being willing to share it with the people that help make their businesses a success. So it's good to see that you're doing that and stepping up. What I've done is I filed a bill that would do what we did earlier during the recession when things were getting really tough for small businesses. At that point in time, we had the Small Business Administration be able to waive the fees for people that went in and got an SBA loan, and then tell the banks that they should guarantee that the SBA would guarantee up to 90%, so get them over their reluctance and their hesitation to get money out the door to small businesses. We had a lot of money borrowed on that basis here in the 6th District, and about 113,000 banks about 13,000 banks that hadn't been participating get back in and participate on that, and lots of people get advantage of it. So I've filed that bill again for another year to do that, because we are not out yet of the situation. We're moving along. People are being hired. People's attitude about it is good, and businesses tell me they're ready to hire. So let's get the banks moving on that. And the bill would allow the SBA to guarantee up to 90% and waive the fees for participants on that, and hopefully that'll get some cash flow going and make sure that businesses can expand and keep meeting their obligations. So thanks, Rich, for that. And I have the answer to our survey on the student loan refinancing question, where we asked whether or not people thought that a student loan borrower should be allowed to refinance their federal student loans at a lower rate. 92% said yes, 8% said no. I think there's a pretty healthy margin there for trying to give these students a break, which incidentally would not only help them, but also help our economy. We're told by people that study this, economists, that if only people that had a 5% or higher interest rate on their loan were able to write it down to a more reasonable level, it could put almost $20 billion back into the economy, which is good for us businesses and good for our communities.
Thanks, Congressman. Again, if you've got a question you'd like to ask Congressman Tierney, please press 0. And if you'd like to stay in touch with the Congressman after the call, please press 7 to leave your email address. Congressman, we've got Katie from Salem on the line who has a question about jobs.
Hello, Katie.
Hello, Congressman. Nice to have you on this phone forum. It's a wonderful opportunity for us. My question pertains to the bigger picture of why there are no jobs, and I think probably the biggest reason for the dire job outlook is that so many corporations and large companies and employers have gone overseas so they can work on the cheap. What are some of the things that you and your colleagues are working on now that could help to encourage sustainable industry, maybe new kinds of industries or outside-the-box industries, nationally and particularly in our district, that might help to create new jobs?
Well, thank you. Great question. First, I mean, fortunately, the situation is getting a little bit better. We just have a long way still to go. But just a few years back, when President Obama got sworn in, we were hemorrhaging about 800,000 jobs a month out of that. It was a pretty dire situation. Newspapers were writing about how we were going to go into a depression. So one of the things that we did was pass the Recovery Act, which infused some resources in for a number of things, for transportation funds, to help our cities and towns keep teachers and firefighters and police on board. And we invested in science and research, which allowed us to, have people be able to do the grants that they needed to get the new innovation out there. We put money in energy, both renewables and efficiencies. Did a lot of things that sort of tried to turn the tide to where last quarter we had 283,000 jobs, last month I should say, gathered, which was on trend with the over 9.1 million jobs in the private sector that have been brought on board in the past couple of years. So we're moving in the right direction, but we need to do more. And while we've reduced the deficit by more than half and we're trending down, now's the time to keep being sensible so that we're trending down the deficit, but spend the money we spend on real investments that are going to do something for the economy and do something about jobs. So the research and science and development, that's important. We have fewer grants than we used to have to people. Some of our Nobel laureate winners have been out there ready to go into really technological fields, whether it's biopharma, whether it's nanoscience, whether it's energy, and they've been getting cut on their grants on that basis. We need to move forward on that, because without basic research, we're not going to get into those areas at the level that we need to get in to be competitive with the Chinas, the Singapores, and the Germanys on that, and those create jobs. We're at a serious cutting-edge point where nanoscience, for instance, will be the next general-purpose science like electricity or a computer on that, and we can really create jobs, particularly here in Massachusetts, if we continue to support that type of activity, support our hospitals and clinics, which put people to work, but also create a good health situation for folks. If we did a highway bill, that certainly would be helpful on that. It would put hundreds of thousands of people to work in something that needs to be done. That's not just people with the pick and shovel. It's also engineers and design people on that basis that really get to work. So we can do all those things. We make smart investments in energy, in science, in innovation, in the highway bill, in education and job training, so we make sure that we have people ready to do those jobs as they're being developed. And then, as Rich mentioned, make sure that our small businesses that are going to be part of supporting all this have the credit that they need and the cash availability so that they can grow when they're ready to go and put people to work. So we have a plan. It'll create a lot of jobs, but we need to get people currently who disagree with us. We need to get them to understand government sometimes has a role. And in almost all the innovation that's come around in the Centers of Bright New Things have done it with innovation from the state, from the government, being helpful. Steve Jobs, was a great designer and a great marketer, but there was not a single thing in that iPhone that he created, and almost everything in there was created through some investment from all of us in the technology on that. So we can create jobs, we can have innovation, we can move forward, but we have to be willing to make the investments part of our smart spending. So as we're reducing the deficit, we're also moving forward and creating opportunities for people.
Thanks, Congressman. Again, if you have a question you'd like to ask Congressman Tierney, please press 0. And if you'd like to stay in touch after the call, please press 7. Congressman, we've got Ken from Newbury on the line with a question about higher education.
Thank you. Hello, Ken.
Good evening, Congressman. No, Tim. Sorry.
Oh, Tim, sorry.
The cost of higher education is skyrocketing. You take a look at some of these private universities like Northeastern and Syracuse, they're around $60,000 per year. And even the state schools, Salem University, UMass, et cetera, around $25,000. So, when we were growing up, you could actually work during the summer and actually pay for your own education. So it's not the debt that these students are taking on. That's part of the problem. The bigger problem I see is these skyrocketing costs of these universities. What can you do to help bring these costs down? I think that would have more of an impact than just reducing the interest rates on the loans.
Well, I agree that it's a two-pronged thing. One is that when people do have a loan or whatever, that we keep it down. But part of it is making Pell Grants, for instance, people that qualify Pell Grants be of the value that they used to be when they were first created. But even that is a situation that doesn't deal directly with the cost, just a way to pay for it. What we did in the Higher Education Opportunity Act, we put a provision in that talked about schools having to be transparent and to let people know on their websites and in the Department of Education website what they were charging and whether or not they had increased their tuitions and fees in the past several years and whether or not they were increasing from year to year. And we gave them incentives to keep any increases down within the cost of living adjustment. And if they did that, then there'd be more campus-based aid for the students, and if they didn't, they'd be penalized. So trying to give a carrots and stick approach to a situation where we don't have control over private universities, but certainly because there are federal resources going in, we can give incentives and try and affect behavior on that basis. Try and support other technologies like distance learnings and opportunities and credits for students. Maybe if they have a good high school career, some of their AP courses will get them credit also for the beginning aspect of some of their courses in college, making sure that the curriculum is aligned and they can do that. Other ways of giving people credits for life experiences and covering some of the costs, speeding up people's path through college on that basis, and just continue to try and do that. One of the things we do with public higher education is I wrote into the law a maintenance of effort provision, basically saying to states that you can no longer take the increased federal aid and supplant it and walk out the back door with your state aid, not participate. State aid to public universities and colleges has been reduced substantially over the last decades to the point where, exactly as you said, perhaps you went to college and paid a moderate amount of money that could be paid for when you were working. Now kids are working sometimes 2 jobs or more, and they're still running out with $27,000 to $30,000 worth of debt out of a public higher education institution all too often. So the states have to maintain their effort, put some back in. Massachusetts has started to do that. Others have do it as well because of that maintenance of effort provision. We have to keep pushing on all of those areas, keep trying to keep those costs down, get the incentives in that direction, make sure that people that know when they're getting into college whether this is the college that jacks tuition up and maybe I ought not to go there, and hope the market pressures work on it as well. And then on the state end of it, make sure that they get back into the business of supporting education because it's important to their economy and the businesses and the families in their districts.
Thanks, Congressman. Again, if you have a question you'd like to ask Congressman Tierney, please press 0 now. And to stay in touch after the call, to leave your email address, please press 7. Congressman, we've got Steve from Peabody on the line who has a question about Social Security.
Thank you. Steve, how are you? Steve?
Yeah, I just had a question about Social Security and why, we all know there's problems coming down the road, but we're not doing anything to address it now to make some changes that will make it financially sound for the long term.
Well, I appreciate your concern on the long term of it. Actually, that Social Security is in pretty good shape according to its own trustees, for a good portion out on that. There is a concern that if we don't do anything sometime in the relatively near to midterm, and the economy doesn't grow fast enough, that it may become a problem down the line. There are a number of things that we can do. People sort of are afraid to debate it because it's a very obvious, serious political issue, as you know. People rely on it. And people are sometimes afraid to go near it, but I don't believe we have to fix it by putting more years on people's age before they get to qualify for the benefits or cutting the benefits on that. They're meager enough for a lot of people. We have about 2/3 of the people in this district, and I think that's a fairly constant number throughout the country, that rely on it for most of their retirement, and a good almost a third of people, 30% or so of people, rely on it for all of their living after retirement. So cutting back on the benefits or extending the age before people qualify should not be a preferred or method on that. We can do a number of things. One thing we could do right now, you reach a certain income, about $112,000, $113,000. The money you earn above that is not subject to the withholding. That does not comport with the way it used to be when the program was set up, and we could lift that cap, and that would go a long way to resolving a good part of the problem. So we have about 23, 24 different suggestions of things out there that need to be discussed. As I say, we're not at a panic point by any means right now, but we are at a point where it would be wise for us to start looking at this now and trying to find some consensus so that when people had an idea of what they want to do, it came out in a uniform sense and didn't become a political issue that was just pillared from post to post. And that's what we keep striving to do, and hopefully we're going to be able to make that work.
Thanks, Congressman. And before we go to our next question, we'd like to ask you to share your thoughts with us by answering another poll question. Congressman, would you like to read the second poll question to our callers?
Absolutely. Thank you. So it's been about 100 days. We had this mentioned a little earlier with when Howie called in. It's been about 100 days since the emergency unemployment insurance expired for long-term unemployed workers all across the country. Since that point in time, about 2.8 million Americans have seen their benefits cut off. So I mentioned that I had filed a bill earlier that would extend these vital benefits, and we're filing one again. So the question is, do you think that Congress should vote to restore unemployment insurance for long-term unemployed workers trying to find work? If you press 1 if you say yes, and press 2 if your thought is no. Thanks,
Congressman. Again, if you have a question you'd like to ask Congressman Tierney, please press 0 now. And to stay in touch after the call, please press 7. Congressman, we've got Linda from Gloucester on the line who has a question about seniors.
Good evening, Congressman. Thank you for the opportunity. I wanted to inquire. I work in the nursing home industry here on Cape Ann, and I'm wondering what Congress's, let's see if I can remember my question properly, going to do to assure that our frail seniors who are both in the community and in nursing home environments continue to get the monies and the services that they receive, given the current trend toward cutting back on all levels, as well as the increased amount of regulations and documentations and the do more with less theory that seems to be the prevailing mantra for pretty much every aspect of trying to ensure that our elders get what they need. And the second part of the question is, when you folks are designing laws and regulations and looking at changing how you're contributing monies to the elderly, how often do you all come out into the field and actually walk a mile in the shoes of the people that provide these services?
Right. Well, let me ask you first, Linda. I don't know how often my colleagues do it. I hope they do it on a regular basis. We certainly do. We not only do we have people in our constituent offices out here in the district that make a regular point of visiting a lot of facilities, Council on Aging, senior housing issues, all of that. I make a point of it, whenever I'm back in the district, and I'm back every weekend and about every 5th or 6th or 7th week, depending on what the schedule is. And during a week that I'm back in the district, always include in that a range of things from assisted living to nursing homes to SNFs to seniors, Council on Aging, all of that. Because we, in the committee, though, which I'm on Education and Labor, we deal with those issues. We deal with the Older Americans Act. We deal with getting congregate meals out to seniors as well as Meals on Wheels. We deal with trying to help people that are older that still need get unemployment assistance. We try to make sure there's counseling and advice available to seniors who have issues if they're getting abused or if they're being taken advantage of financially. So all of those issues, as well as making sure they have the medical resources through Medicare and Medicaid, we deal with on a regular basis on that. So that's how our office operates. I'm assuming that most, if not all, of my colleagues down there have some similar situation where they're out as often as they can with their ear to the ground on that. And we have just a great network of people that work in the industry that are not bashful at all, that they know where to reach us, and we meet with them in groups on a regular basis, but they call in and email and write all the time to me and to the staff here with whatever concerns that they might have and whatever comments or suggestions they have. So it's a pretty good give and take on that. We're working all the time. We have a battle. I mean, I've mentioned to some of the previous callers, Mary was talking about bipartisanship and trying to make things work. Some of the other folks called in about Social Security issues, whatever. Look, there's differences. There's some people that never did like Social Security and Medicare, and they still don't like them, and they're fighting all the time to change the programs in a way that I think would probably end them for most instances. There are other people that just want to flat out end them, and other people that just want to keep cutting back. I mean, one point in time there was people on the other side that said that they hoped that Medicare would wither on the vine. So we have that group of people. That we have people that are not as strident on that, but who feel they keep squeezing and saving money on that. And we have people who think that we can act responsibly and have these programs work by getting rid of fraud, waste, and abuse, but at the same time, make sure that we have the investment in them that gives people a dignified retirement and a way to sustain themselves as independently as possible, and then if they have to go into some sort of hospitalization or housing for seniors, whatever, that is decent and funded appropriately as well. So we continue to get that on a regular basis. We're trying to make the right adjustments for Medicare reimbursements and for Medicaid reimbursements, and we're trying to get enough physicians into the business of dealing with people on Medicare and Medicaid on that. So, Linda, we're constantly working on that. We think we've got the infrastructure here in the office to listen to people and to take their ideas, and we try to make sure that the legislative efforts we have in Washington are informed by that and try to make the fight so that people have the resources they need to retire with dignity. It's not always easy, and we don't always win. We thought it was a great win in 2005 when we stopped people from privatizing Social Security. I think it'll be a great fight now if we stop Paul Ryan and others from changing the Medicare system in a way that will essentially kill it, and the Medicaid system where they'll block grant it and essentially ruin that program as well. So we keep on fighting.
Thanks, Congressman. Again, if you have a question you'd like to ask Congressman Tierney, please press 0. And if you'd like to stay in touch with the Congressman after the call, please press 7. Congressman, we've got Cindy from Danvers on the line who has a question about the minimum wage.
Great. Hello, Cindy.
Hi, Congress. Hi. Oh, this is such a pleasure. I love technology, gift and a curse, but thank you for the gift that we can all communicate. This is wonderful. Anyways, I'll get right to the punch. Minimum wage. We all know Vermont went up to $10.50. Of course, Hawaii is a little higher than Massachusetts, and there are a few states. I would just say this. I am an educated woman, and I had a wonderful career, but I am the middle age of a baby boomer, and it is tough and very tough to get jobs. So I work, like a lot of other my age, a couple part-time jobs, one a seasonal job, and both seasonal jobs. And I work them, and I get a little bit above minimum wage, not much more. With respect to the small businesses, which are local, one is in Beverly and actually one is in Hamilton, with respect to all small businesses, you'd never cry or whine, at least I wouldn't, to ask for more money. They're small businesses. You work, you enjoy it, and everybody gets a paycheck. My question is, in concrete, why the heck does it take an explosion or a volcano to raise the minimum wage? My husband and I have a small, modest home in Danvers. We're very fortunate that we, old school, worked 2 jobs in our 30s to buy and maintain a home. like everybody else, everything has gone up, from insurances to utilities. Where a minimum wage job, you can work 7 minimum wage jobs, it still is not going to facilitate your cost of living. Why does it take so long to get something like that passed?
Well, great question, Cindy. So let me try and answer it here.
Sorry to go on so much, but I never thought I'd experience minimum wage. I really didn't. I really didn't. Yeah.
I know. Look, in 2007, when Democrats got the majority of the House, one of the first things we did was raise the minimum wage. It had not been raised in over a decade on that basis. So we agree with you fully. People can't live on a minimum wage that keeps them in poverty. It needs to be done again. One of the problems with getting it, in order to get it passed in 2007, we weren't able to connect it to inflation so that it didn't keep automatically adjusting. And now inflation has eaten away at it again, and we have a problem where it's at $7.25 an hour. So if you work 40 hours a week, sometimes you work more than that, you're still in poverty, particularly if you have a couple of kids. So we want to raise it to $10.10 an hour, and that's really not as high as it should be. If you would have taken it from what it was in the 1960s and just put inflation onto it, it would be over $11 an hour at this point in time. But we think we can pass at $10.10 an hour. We would index that to future annual increases in inflation so that we wouldn't keep running into this problem, having inflation eat it away. And we would raise the tip minimum wage as well on that. And most small businesses that I run into are okay with that. A lot of them aren't even paying a minimum wage at any rate, but it's a lot of the larger companies like McDonald's, who cost taxpayers about $1.2 billion each year because not only do they not pay their people a wage that they should be paying them, they then go out and advise their employees to go get public assistance for housing, to go get food stamps, to go get other public assistance, so that essentially you and I and other taxpayers are picking up McDonald's employment cost. That's absurd. I think people are starting to catch on to that, and McDonald's competitors and other small business people are realizing it's not fair for them to do the right thing and have somebody like that competing badly. Look, it is a situation where 55% of the people that are low wage right now are working full time. Almost 60% of them are women, and adults make up 88% of them. So all the arguments that people might make about it not really impacting people and being mostly young people on summer jobs is not true on that. So we need to do it, raise it up. It would create about 85,000 additional jobs because as a former president of the Chamber of Commerce locally here, I'll tell you that when people are making a decent wage, they'll spend it buying your services or your products. So it'll help in that respect. We need to do it. It'll put about 28 million people into a situation where they're getting paid much more fairly. It'll lift, about 14 million children will get the benefit of that. A number of them will be lifted. About 4.5 million of them will be lifted out of poverty. So we need to do it. It's a crazy. I keep going back to poor Mary who want to talk about bipartisanship. This is a situation where we have the majority. We put it on the floor. Republicans and Democrats voted for it. We have a Republican majority now. They won't put it on the floor. It would pass. It would pass with some Republican votes and essentially all Democratic votes, but it has to be brought to the floor. It matters who's setting the agenda and who brings things to the floor or doesn't. And so what we need to do is make it difficult for the current majority to not face up to it and bring it to the floor. We need a public uproar about it, people as passionate as you, Cindy, and we have to keep banging away at it as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Congressman. I think we've got the results.
We do have the poll results. Thank you. The question on that was whether or not Congress should vote to restore unemployment insurance for the long-term unemployed workers who are trying to find work but have been out now for a long period of time and finding it difficult still to get back in. 72% of the people said yes, certainly we should do that, and 28% said no, we should not.
Great. Thank you. And just a reminder, if you have a question you'd like to ask Congressman Tierney, please press 0. And if you'd like to stay in touch with the Congressman after the call, please press 7. Congressman, we've got Jean from Pewdie on the line who has another question about bipartisanship.
Great. Hi, Jean.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing fine. I'd just like to know why the government can't work with everybody so that everybody is in poverty, living from paycheck to paycheck. To me, it seems like the government just keeps putting money in their pockets and the rest of us are suffering.
Well, one of the problems is that government doesn't have as much money as it used to have to invest in people on that basis. We've been cutting the budget back substantially on that, and at one point, some of our people voted to shut the government down on that, and because the argument was whether or not we were going to keep cutting things back to 2010 levels, 2008 levels, sometimes 2002 levels, When people need to have help, whether it's with education or Meals on Wheels for seniors, or other things that need to be done, like fixing our roads and bridges on that. So, we have this argument about as long as, we're moving forward and we do spend money every year, shouldn't we make sure that the money we spend is invested in the future? When we spend it, it should help the economy, it should help create jobs, and be spent wisely on that basis. And at the same time, we have to be frugal so that we continue. As I said, we've reduced the deficit by more than half. It's trending down. People are starting to get back to work, but we need to make sure that businesses have good cash flow and access to credit. And we need to make sure that we do the things that people expect their government to do. They expect government to fix their roads. No corporation, no wealthy individual is going to go out there and build highways. Eisenhower knew that when he created the highway system. We need to make sure we have good public education. No individual, no corporation is going to go out there and create public schools for our students and then make sure our teachers are paid properly and the schools are open the number of hours that they need to be opened. We need to make sure that we have firefighters and police on the job so that we have public safety. No corporation privately or wealthy person is going to do that. So the question comes, if the likes of Paul Ryan, who put out a budget that some people, about 58 theologians, thought was so persnickety that it was immoral. If they're going to keep trying to say that we should be spending at such levels that people are cutting food stamps by $40 billion and not making sure that we can take care of our seniors, then we're going to have a continued disagreement, and that's why you don't find people coming to agreement, because the radicalism of cuts so deep make it difficult for people who want to be responsible to come to agreement with them. If we could get them to agree, to just come someplace toward the middle, come in, put people the resources that they need to do the sensible things, then we'll move forward on that. But if we have some people just saying no, they don't want to do it at all, and you can't have a government run without some idea of trying to work together with people with whom you disagree. And so we have always had the option open. As I mentioned before, when with 2007 and 2010, it was the most productive House of Representatives since 1965. And that's because we reached across, we worked with other people, and that's how we put people to work fixing roads and bridges. That's how we made investments in science and research that led to innovations, putting people to work. It's how we had some energy projects going that were better efficiencies and renewables, putting on that, and jobs created from that. So we need to get everybody on board, and we need to have a team leading that was willing to put items on the agenda that will give both Democrats and Republicans who want to be serious about it an opportunity to move forward.
Thanks, Congressman. We've got a question from Ryan, who's on the line from Amesbury, about unemployment.
Great. Hello, Ryan.
Hello, Congressman, sir. Nice to speak with you. I had a quick question about unemployment in general. I'm a recent college graduate. I have a 4-year degree from a private school, and I live with my mother. My father has passed away, and when I go onto Monster.com or I go onto a job site, I see within 35 miles of Amesbury, sir, there are 2 full-time job listings. Each one of them require a minimum of 15 years experience with several types of certifications, and 1 part-time job that pays about as much as you would expect to be paid bagging groceries at Demoulas. Now I have, I have several skills. I speak 6 languages. I'm trained in theology, philosophy, civics, history, literature, and I can't find any opportunities here. I live with my mother, and we barely survive. There are some weeks when we barely get by. We're blue-collar people. We've never asked the state or the government to help us. We're too proud to get welfare. I grew up in Newburyport. My grandmother was a dance teacher in Newburyport for 65 years. In the Depression, she went to New York City, and she learned at the age of 18 Russian ballet, and she was in business for 65 years. I'd love to be able to, be like my grandmother, and I'm curious, sir, what kind of opportunities I have here. Should I leave and go to a place like Texas or Florida where I can find a living and be proud? I'm not interested in being Donald Trump. I just want to get by. I'm curious, what opportunities do I have here in Massachusetts, sir?
Well, Ryan, I mean, I've heard your story, but from others on the situation, I think it is still obviously a problem getting people to work, even people that are well educated, as are you, and have a lot of skills, and it might not necessarily be the exact education or skill for jobs that exist here. But there are jobs in this district, as there are other places, that are looking to make a match. I hope you'll take advantage of the Workforce Investment Board, the Job Center here in the district. We have one up in Merrimack Valley. We have one in Salem that covers the North Shore. We have one down the South Suburban area that covers that part of the district. And if you call my office, 978-531-1669, we'll connect you with the one that best serve you. But they have, taken surveys, and they are aware of employers who have jobs that are available. And if you don't have the exact skill or education that's available, we are working with our community colleges and the workforce investment boards and the industries to try and get a program put together. I just, this year drafted the entire Workforce Investment Reauthorization Act that would have had more opportunities for that. We are trying like crazy to get our Republican friends to bring it to the floor and do it. We're working on the Senate bill. It's very close to ours, so we're hoping we can get something agreed on in the not-too-distant future that would give people the opportunity. The workforce investment boards go out there and identify where the jobs are, because industry tells us they have jobs. What is it that you need from people? What are the skill sets? What's the education level? And if they don't have an exact match on that, how do we get them in a paid internship or a paid apprenticeship, and then get them hooked up with a community college or other training facility or entity that can get them those skills, have the employer work to help either provide the faculty or provide the curriculum on that, so we get people moving along and try to get them paid, get the employer to know the employee, and vice versa, and move them along. We are still trying to get jobs created. We've got to make those investments in basic research and other things that I mentioned earlier. But in a strict employment situation, there are employers out there, workforce investment boards are looking to line them up and identify exactly who they are and try to connect them with people in your situation. And then if there's a mismatch on this particular skills or education, find the best way to get that done, whether it's a community college or something else, and get that done. In the meantime, try and work out a paid apprenticeship or internship on that basis, so that we can sort of connect it all going and get people started. Please, if you want to connect with your local workforce investment board, give us a call at the office, and we'll try to make sure that that works out. Thank you, Ryan.
Thanks, Congressman. We're going to go to Rob from Amesbury, who has a question
about
net neutrality.
Rob?
Hello, Congressman. I'm here. My name's Rob. I'm here with my 10-year-old son, Ryan.
Hi.
And we have a question about, what is obviously my son's generation, and even for our own, I think become, one of the largest utilities that we're all depending on, and that's the internet. And we wanted to ask what your position was with regard to net neutrality, and what initiatives there are in Congress that you're supporting, if you are, to preserve net neutrality and to regulate, the internet as telecommunications, as opposed to, a varying offers levels of service from internet providers.
Well, that's a great question, and Rob, no offense to you, but I can tell it came from Ryan. He's the brains of the outfit in that crowd. It was a great question. The joking aside, I am firmly in favor of net neutrality. We have legislation that we're supporting that's been filed in both the Senate and the House. We have also written and contacted the FCC and very strenuously told them that we think they have to be more aggressive in making sure that we move in the idea and take the option of identifying this as telecommunications so that it can be better regulated and we don't end up with people having to pay more for the usage of that, and having people that therefore have a lot of money and are bigger companies, whatever, squeezing out smaller companies or individuals from having access to the internet on that. It is a utility that everybody ought to have access to, and that is the way that this our economy as well as our social relationships are going to grow on that, and we need to do it. So we feel very strongly about that. And Ryan, you're right on the money, and a great question. I think, Natasha, we have time for one more question. Or is that the last one, Natasha?
Nope. We're going to go to Don from Salem.
Okay. Don, you're it. You get the last word.
Hello, Congressman. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. How are you?
Thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to speak. I really appreciate it. I am a school teacher, veteran, 19 years, and one of the things that I am very particularly focused on is
I am recently getting divorced, and I'm a school teacher, and we work very hard. We love our jobs, and we wouldn't be doing it if we didn't. I mean, that's pretty much what it is. I mean, we absolutely love them. And one of the things I was forced to reflect back upon was the fact that since 2005, I am still making the same amount of money that I was in 2005 as I am now. And I would not have known that if I was not getting divorced. And I was shocked. And I'm just wondering, what is it that you are going to do to support school teachers, especially with the higher standards that teachers are being held to, which is absolutely fabulous. We do respect it. It's just we really need to have the support of Congress. I mean, we're having fingerprinting done, which is amazing, except we're being expected to pay for that. And we're wondering how Congress is going to support our school teachers in Massachusetts.
Okay, well, it's a good question, Don, in part because it gives me a chance to lay out a little groundwork on that. Fortunately or unfortunately, depending on your view on this, the federal government only supplies about 10%, a little more, a little less, of all the costs of K through 12. The rest all comes from the state and locally on that. So the federal government got involved after court decisions determined that states weren't living up to their obligation to educate minorities and people, more impoverished people on that. And they got involved, and that's how you got the Elementary and Secondary Education Act that has evolved over time, where the federal government provides some resources to local communities who can take it or not take it. But if they take it, there's always been a balance trying to make sure that there was some accountability for that everybody in the population, the people that didn't have enough income, people from different minority groups or whatever, were disaggregated. You actually were using that money to improve their situation so that the schools came into compliance with the court decision that they had to properly and equally educate the children. Same type of scenario happened with the disabilities, Individual Disability Education Act, when states were found by the courts to not be living up to their constitutions and providing children with that educational opportunity. The federal government put some money on the table, but it wasn't something the states had to take, but if they took it, they had to meet certain standards to do that. And that was going to be up to 40% of the cost of educating a disabled child as opposed to a child without disabilities. They never really got up that high because there wasn't enough in the budget. They didn't argue and get enough on the budget. It was usually about 16 or 18%. So we can do a couple of things. We can try to get more of money under the Disabilities Act and the ESEA Act to local communities, because then they have the flexibility to use that money for the supporting teachers, extending the day, providing materials for kids of that nature, and doing what they think is going to help them meet the burdens of educating those students up to the mandate of their own constitutions. I had a bill with Ron Kind a couple of years ago that sort of called Newt Gingrich's bluff. You might remember he told everybody he wanted to fully fund Individual Disability Education Act. So Ron and I put a bill out that would do just that. We didn't get a single Republican vote in the committee. We got all the Democrats and no Republicans. But we need both parties to participate in this. And if we were able to put more resources into the Individual Disability Act, it would mean that states and communities would have more flexibility with their own money to put that towards supporting teachers and the other programs that they thought were important. So we can look for more resources on that. We can try to make sure that they're available for teacher support and teacher training. Teachers in a higher education system is held to higher standards of supporting teachers. But we have a relatively small role to play on the finances on that, and the states and local communities have much more. But we fight for it, and we put the bills in to try and make sure that we're as robust as we possibly can so the communities can have the flexibility they need to do the things they need to do to meet their constitutional obligations to really educate all the children, no matter what kind of a child it is, no matter where they're from, no matter what their background, and get them moving in the right direction. So we'll keep doing that. I support the teachers. I have teachers in my family. Obviously, my sister-in-law just retired after 32 years. My niece is still out there teaching in the Wakefield school system. We need to get behind our teachers. They are, as you say, willing to meet standards. I mean, they set as tough a standard as anybody on themselves. And I think that there were probably one of the problems we have is we don't include them enough when we talk about what we're going to do in education reforms and how we're going to move forward and meeting all the needs on that. And we've got to take the professionals and make them part of the team that's going to help us find the solutions that's going to be able to make our system work better. So look, I want to thank everybody. Don, I want to thank you and all of our previous callers on that. Natasha, thank you for being the moderator on this particular call. I'm glad that we have the opportunity to do this. We're out and about in the community all the time, so I see many of you on the street, in your businesses, at your school, anywhere that's within the 39 cities and towns. This is just one other opportunity for us to interact. And as I said earlier, a lot of people like to take advantage of it because they can get about their business doing something else while they have it on speaker and get to ask a question as well. If you didn't get your question answered, I hope you'll email us or call at some point in time or write us. And again, please follow us on Facebook and make sure that you stay in touch with us. Go to our website as well. Thanks very much, and I look forward to seeing everybody soon.